this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Hey, welcome to Get It Right, Texoma, with the trio, Mike Hendren, Terry McAdams, Trey Serrala. Thank you once again for joining us on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching us, you know we're there. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. I want to encourage you to visit our website, GetItRightTexoma.com, and our Facebook page. Be sure to like and share and comment and give us your feedback on the show as well. It's brought to you by Eddie Hills Fun Cycles at 401 North Scott, downtown Wichita Falls since 1966. EddieHillsFunCycles.com. MacTech Solutions, 4020 Ray Road, Suite 3B here in Wichita Falls, MacTech-Solutions.com. Your Apple specialist, your Apple authorized service provider here in Texoma is MacTech Solutions at 4020 Ray Road, Suite 3B. And also by Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop online, lpsweet.com, and on Facebook, Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop. So, got a sweet tooth? Hey, come see us. Well, you can't really come see us. You can call us.
Really good sweets. I mean, their cookies are
made to order stuff.
Pies are great too, but their cookies are just next level.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. I'll pass the word to the chef. Anyway, thank y'all for being with us. We appreciate it very much. We got a few things happening.
I've even heard you sleep with her.
I do.
Yeah,
sleep with the boss.
Yeah, sleep with the chef.
I wish you could promote that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, when you got it, baby. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yes.
The fact is he sleeps with the boss, and that's why he's not getting promoted.
So embarrassing. Anyway, hell, there's something happening around here this week. Oh, yes. Yep. The Burn Shop Block Party and Steak Cook-Off is coming up. This coming Saturday. 28th.
That's already this? No, that's not this Saturday.
When we're...
Oh, yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Pretend we're not doing this live, Terry.
Old habits die hard.
Yeah.
You're breaking the fourth wall there.
Saturday, September 28th. And it's going to be at the Burn Shop, which is downtown on Ohio Street, and from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it's an all-day affair. I don't know how many entries they're going to have, how many cooks they're going to have, but...
I'm guessing a shitload.
It's going to be there's going to be a lot of dead cow cooking going on down there that day. Indeed, there will be. That's going to be a lot of fun. I can already smell the steaks, man.
Boy,
love it.
Can't beat it. And all the proceeds go, 50% of the proceeds go to the Wichita Falls Police Officer Association, and 50% of the proceeds go to the Wichita Falls Fire Department Association.
It's terrific. Yeah. I'll tell you what. The worst steak I ever had was adequate.
There you go.
I'm just going to say that. Art Battle Texas State Championship is back in Wichita Falls. It's going to be at the J.S. Bridwell Ag Center also on the 28th, and that's from 6 to 10 p.m. So kind of right down the road.
And they stream that, right? They
have in the past.
I believe they stream it as well.
Yeah.
But it's better to go watch it.
Oh, but absolutely, if you're here, yeah.
Well, in person, because you've got artists that are actually creating works there on the stage in front of you. In front of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's next level. I mean, it's pretty interesting. Whether you like art or don't like art or appreciate art or not, I can appreciate that somebody has the skill. Whether I'm not a big art lover of, it's art, okay. But I appreciate that people have the skill to do that. That's what I'm impressed by it.
Yeah.
And I even especially acknowledge and appreciate people who can do it like this on the fly as well.
Well, the fact that I have no artistic talent whatsoever.
The big murals are the ones that even impress me more. Yeah. People that can put a mural on the side of a building or something like that.
Well, they have the vision to be able to scale that. You know, you have to be able to scale an image, and you have to be able to do it in your mind before you translate it to that wall or whatever, or the canvas. I mean, you got to be able to scale it, and that takes some talent for sure. So that's coming up also on the 28th of September as well. It's hard to believe that we're already talking about the end of the month, guys. Where has September gone?
Gone by in a hurry.
Well, and as of the day that we're recording,
2 assassination attempts, or was it 1 assassination attempt this month?
Yeah,
he's on track to have 4 assassination attempts by the election. 1 a month. He had 1 in August, 1 in September.
No.
1 in October. They'll have to get that November one. They'll have to get it in early though.
I'm telling you.
Oh, you would be assassins. Oh, I know. It's crazy.
At this point, if there is not a total upheaval in the Secret Service, there is something seriously wrong.
Well, the agents have got to be so embarrassed.
They have to be. Of course, we saw the director resign in the wake of attempt number 1. I don't know what's going to happen.
Nobody to resign now.
Well, there's an acting director.
Well, there is, but
But it's like at this point, you've got to have fundamental changes in how that job is being done in the protocols. That's the only thing I can think of. How else does a guy hide out for 12 hours waiting to get a shot at the president?
And it seems like it's the protocols of the pre-sweep and that sort of stuff. It's not the protocols of the actual people that are guarding at the time.
Right.
You know, they're jumping on things. And like this guy, there was a sniper who saw this person. Yeah. But once again, why was that person able to be there for 12 hours? It's not like they just showed up and put their gun through the thing and started. They had a sniper's nest. Yeah, how can you build a sniper's nest within that time?
And it took some planning to do that.
Absolutely.
It took some planning to do that.
Well, I looked at the map, the last show actually I had up, and we didn't really chance to talk about it, basically, I guess if it was north and south, but he was headed in the direction of where that gunman was.
He was moving that way.
And just so happens that they, but also to be fair, there's security has multiple levels, multiple layers.
Yeah.
They sweep certain things, but then there's, of course, once they sweep, of course, unless they've got somebody stationed there watching or has view on it, they won't necessarily see everything. And so you're constantly looking and
you would
observing and all of that. And that's probably what happened here.
This was one of Trump's properties. This was the Trump golf course.
Yeah.
You would expect that, particularly not just being that he's a former president and a current presidential candidate,
right,
but you would expect that's his property, that combining all those things, the level of security on that property would be higher than if you're at an open public forum,
right,
where you're showing up, you're going to be there for 15 minutes, and you're going to hop on the plane and go somewhere else. You would expect a different level of security, I would think, there. But anyway, hopefully we don't have any more incidents like this.
Absolutely not.
At all. Each show we've been focusing on a local restaurant, locally owned restaurant. And this week we're hitting one of my very favorites. It has become one of my very favorites. I think personally, one of the top 3 burgers in town, perhaps number 1. Just going to say that up front. Ronnie's Burgers.
I think it's a tie. I'm with you. They're in the top 3.
Tie with, we won't say with who.
Well,
we'll focus on Ronnie's.
Huh?
We'll focus on Ronnie's.
We'll focus on Ronnie's.
You can tell me privately.
There's two others in town I think that are at that level.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, if you had 3 of them in front of you, I don't know because you can't taste test. But I think there's 3 burgers and only 3 burgers that are at this level, and Ronnie's is one of them.
I know Ronnie's. So they use fresh ground beef. They cut their own fries. It's an amazing place, and they've been in the same location. I don't know how long now. I mean,
long time,
long time.
And they were on Kemp Street before, I believe, where Renault Rehab is now. Yeah. There was a building there that I think had been like a Long John Silver's or something at one time. If I'm remembering correctly, I think Ronnie's was there.
That's going way back.
Am I correct that Ronnie's was there?
It seems like they might have been in that location.
Anyhow, it doesn't matter. They're not there now.
That would have been
They're on Southwest Parkway.
Yeah.
Over in that strip mall on the corner of
Jacksboro Highway and Midwestern Parkway.
Midwestern. I said Southwest Parkway, Jacksboro Highway.
Yeah.
Midwestern Parkway.
If there's a shopping center, it's right there on the corner of Southwest Parkway and Jacksboro Highway.
Midwestern Parkway.
Or Midwestern Parkway.
Yeah, I screwed you up.
I said it.
No, yeah.
Midwestern
Parkway and Jacksboro Highway. Yes. My fault. I screwed it up first.
Sorry.
And then I threw you off on that.
But it is an amazing burger.
Don't go to Southwest Parkway and look for it.
If you have not been to Ronnie's Burgers, you got to treat yourself. You got to go.
Yeah. Really good. And everything they have is good. I mean, they have shakes that are great.
Oh, yeah.
Their onion rings are unbelievable.
Really good.
Yeah,
and their
fries,
tacos.
The tacos are good. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, their food is just spectacular.
Yeah. My daughter, every time I'm there with her, tacos. That's what she orders. She loves her tacos. Just outstanding. Yeah. Because it's just next level. It really is. They pour a lot of heart and soul into that restaurant. They really have, and it's a great place. And we really enjoy going there. We try to take it in, a couple times a month if we can.
There we go. They're up on the website.
All right there. And, just look at that. Good grief.
Look at that burger. I'm starving now looking at that thing.
Look at that.
It's too early for this.
Yeah. Yeah. If you get that bacon on there too, that just throws that extra level.
I'm telling you,
your bacon's good.
Oh yeah.
Let's look at their menu. There's those onion rings. They're really good. Yeah.
So, Ronnie's Burgers. Got to try them out. it's just as sexist and racist to vote for someone as it is to not vote for them?
That's the right thing to do.
It's okay. I've been on this train for years, and it's one of those. Every once in a while, it's like kind of the active racist and passive racist. Every once in a while, you kind of have to say it again to remind everybody.
Okay.
If you are going to vote for somebody, look, vote the way you want to vote. I don't care.
Yeah.
But if you vote for somebody simply because of the color of their skin or their gender, and that's the only reason you vote for them, that is just as racist or just as sexist as saying you absolutely will not vote for somebody just because of the color of skin or their gender.
Right.
It's the same thing. You can't have it both ways.
Right. You're not basing your decision on their character, their skill set, their ability,
policy,
their policies, their leadership skills.
Whatever you think, yeah. So if you say, I will not vote for, if you say, I will absolutely not vote for a woman under any circumstances, I think that's sexist. I think that's wrong. Now, you got a right to do what you want to do. Yeah. Just as if you say, I'm going to vote for a woman simply because she's a woman, I think that's sexist, and I think it's stupid. But once again, you do what you want to do. Well, but just put that in your mind. You've got to square those two away. You cannot say, I'm voting for, in this case, Kamala Harris. I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris because she's a woman. I don't know anything else about her. I don't care about anything else about her. I don't want to know anything else. I just know that she has female gender parts. So I'm going to vote for her. Whereas I think you're wrong if you say, I will not vote for Kamala Harris simply because she's a woman. I got a million reasons not to vote for Kamala Harris.
Yes, that have nothing.
Her gender is zero to do with it.
And in some people's eyes, it'll be, if they're honest with themselves, it would be, hopefully they vote because they agree with their policies.
Right.
And doesn't.
Of course, you got to know what the policies are.
Well,
what do you agree with?
I'm not trying to. This is a general thing, I brought that in, but this is a general thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
But if you're honest with yourself, it's a bonus, if you will, that they happen to be a woman or black or whatever. Right? I mean, that just happens, and that's great, but that shouldn't be the primary role.
See, I don't think it's a bonus or a detriment. It shouldn't be. I don't think it's a bonus or a detriment. Not in my opinion.
There are people who do view it that way.
Yeah, that's
I agree.
And those people are looking. They're looking to check certain boxes.
Yeah.
Period. They're looking to check certain boxes. And so, well, she's a woman of color. Box checked. She's a woman. Box checked. It's not about. They don't even get it. I think the average Kamala voter, supporter on the street, and I think they say the same thing for Biden. If you stopped them and really ask them, what policies do they, what policy thoughts or decisions or whatever of that candidate do you agree with? Where do they align with you policy-wise? Most of them couldn't tell you. Likewise.
Except for abortion.
That. Now, likewise, I think you also have a lot of people on the other side that, they're going to vote for Trump just because he's Trump. They really can't get into policy and philosophy, political philosophy. They just can't. I think there are more people who can on the right than there are on the left. I really do.
I agree with that.
But I think people, conservative / Republican, because the two terms are not synonymous, despite what everybody thinks. They sometimes can be, but oftentimes are not.
No.
But conservative / Republican voters tend to, I think, invest more time in educating themselves on a candidate and not voting solely on emotion.
Yeah.
Whereas people on the left, it's all about the emotion of the vote. It's their righteous anger against Trump in this case that would compel them to vote for Kamala.
Right.
Nothing else. They don't know a damn thing about. I had this encounter on the air years ago with someone who said, Trump is a racist, and I said, well, what? Can you give me some examples of things that he said or done that lead you to come to that conclusion?
Right.
Could not articulate it. And just went to pieces basically on me.
Well, most people can't.
Right, but there are several things that just like during the debate that people will bring up that they don't see the whole context of the conversation,
Right,
and they don't bring that in. But hey, on something, I don't know if you guys looked at the video I sent you the other day. This reporter, CBS's Adriana Diaz, traveled to Reno, North Las Vegas, and Pahrump, Nevada.
Nevada.
Oh yeah.
And went to some restaurants and started trying to find people who were, who were they going to vote for? Well, they found one person in each of these restaurants. I don't remember how many restaurants she ended up doing, but they couldn't find anybody other than one that would admit to voting for
Everybody else was
Kamala.
a Trump supporter.
Yeah. They're like, and they asked them, about it, and they basically said, "Hey, you're, the economy. It's really what it came down to, and that's probably going to be proven to be right."
Well, and I think right now, the economy, the state of the economy, inflation, all of this because that impacts everybody. It doesn't matter whether you make $150,000 a year or $50,000 a year. If you're in a now if you're if you're an Elon Musk or a Warren Buffett or Tim Apple CEO
Cook.
Tim Cook, wow. If you're one of these guys, the Walmart CEO, she's now I think the richest woman in America again. If you're one of them, if gas is $4 a gallon versus $2.45 a gallon, doesn't really impact you as deeply as it does someone who makes $50 or $60,000 a year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The person, so if you're in that middle class range, somewhere between, $40,000-$50,000 a year, let's say up to $150,000 a year, all of these economic issues are impacting you the most.
Well, it's exactly right, because if you're really poor and everything is provided from the government from you, it really doesn't make that much difference.
Yeah, if you're going to the grocery store and laying down your Lone Star card or swiping your Lone Star card to buy your groceries.
I'm sure it affects you some, but it doesn't affect you the same as it does somebody who is not that is not getting any government assistance and is not wealthy.
Sure.
Yeah. If you're on, if you're using food stamps, here in Texas we call it the Lone Star card because it is an actual card that they put the benefits on, and as I understand it now, almost all benefits go on that card now. That's how you access everything that you get, not just your food stamps, but other benefits as well. So you go to the grocery store, that $9.99 for a 12-pack of Cokes psychologically probably doesn't impact you as much as it does somebody like me who's got to break out the wallet and go, "There's that $10 bill, you bums." Yeah. So it's different. But the economic issues, the economy and the border, those have got to be the two issues that everybody is on fire about, or you damn sure ought to be on fire about.
Yeah,
you really should be. I mean, you think about it. What other two issues in our country right now seriously have the power to impact your businesses?
Oh, yeah, those are absolutely right. I mean, and they go hand in hand.
Yes.
Because the more illegal aliens we let in the country, the housing crunches. I mean, people have to live somewhere.
Yes.
Then you compress the housing market. Yeah. You compress the amount of goods that are available. Yeah, and then on top of that, the government and some of these local governments that are giving them money,
right,
and giving them goods and services,
taxpayer money that they don't. Just like what Jim Johnson was talking about. There's never enough money, right? And so things that we've as a community have invested in. And these people in these cities, that community has invested in bridges and roads and whatever else that the county or whoever's providing this money, that's not going to that. It is being deferred maintenance because we're bringing somebody in and paying some sort of
Well, the whole point was, I guess, just think about this. When you're going to vote and somebody says, "I'm not voting for Kamala Harris," and you go, "Oh, she's not because she's a woman." No. There's a lot of reasons not to vote for Kamala Harris, and there may be, I don't think there's any reason to vote for her, but there's some people that think they are. Yeah. But my point is, if you decide to vote for Kamala Harris, because she's the woman who's running at the top of the ticket right now, do not vote for her, or if you vote for her simply because of her female parts, then you're just as bad as somebody who says, "I will not vote for her simply because of her female parts."
Okay, let me you're
just as bad.
what if people are voting for her just because she's a Democrat?
Well, but
But that's a broader spectrum because that's a choice. And when you're a Democrat or a Republican, that's not something you're born with. You can't change the gender. Well, you shouldn't be able to. I'm talking about if you're trying to vote for somebody based 100% on color, race, or gender.
If your basis on supporting a candidate because of their political affiliation is rooted in the political philosophy, policy, whatever, that's one thing. If you're voting for them, if your root cause of voting for them because they're a Democrat is because they're a Democrat and Democrats are more likely to support a female candidate of color to run. Now you're getting over into the areas what Trey's talking about
but I'm just simply saying I'm voting for her because she's a woman, or I'm voting against her because she's a woman.
Absolutely,
you're both wrong.
No, because I'm voting with her because I'm voting against her because she's a Democrat. And I think there's something rooted in that. I just wanted
and you're not voting against her; you're voting for somebody else.
Right.
Sometimes you vote against somebody, and sometimes you vote for people.
And I'm going to make a prediction right here, guys. I think if this election goes the way we hope it's going to go, I think the first female presidential candidate will actually come out of the Republican Party.
I agree with you. I think it will.
There are some really smart, capable women in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
That are rising to the occasion, and I think the first genuine, duly elected female president of the United States, if it happens, it's going to come from the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party.
I think you're right.
I think it will. All right, so
you want to wrap it up, I guess.
Well, hang on. I do want to mention we got Jim Johnson joining us here very shortly.
Yes.
Our Wichita County judge is going to be the Wichita County judge, not a Wichita County judge. He is the Wichita County judge, and he will explain all of that when he gets here. Jim Johnson is going to join us here in just a little bit, and we're going to move on to some other stuff as well. So, yes, let's take a break here. We're going to come back. We're going to reset, and Jim Johnson is going to join us next here on Get It Right Texoma. Back in a second. And welcome back. It's Get It Right Texoma with the trio. And our very special guest, as promised, is Jim Johnson, Wichita County Judge. Jim, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you all for having me on this morning.
Glad to have you here. Now, you've been in the capacity of Wichita County Judge for how long now?
19 months and some odd days, but who's counting?
It feels longer, though, I'm sure.
But, of course,
we're 20 months now,
You were in public service before that, so tell everybody what you did before you became county judge.
Okay, so right prior to this, I was the chief of staff for our state representative, James Frank, for nearly a decade. Served with him for quite some time, and then before that, I did constituent services for Congressman Thornberry, and did that for about 5 years. And before that, I was the assistant manager at the Midwestern State Bookstore.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went from that to jumped into politics, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
Although, to some degree, it's all customer service and retail work, so it wasn't that big of a shift.
It is that.
That's true, absolutely.
It is that for a fact. So, being Wichita County Judge, it's of course, it is an elected position. You do get paid for it, but it is an elected position. Kind of explain to people what your job description is, what you do as a Wichita County judge.
And he's not the dictator. I already know that.
No.
Yeah, there's it's a good question because most folks don't. You hear judge and you instantly think black robe, with a gavel, ruling on criminal matters, and that's not what that's not what I do, and for the most part, as the county judge. So my job is mostly administrative. The big things that I have to do statutorily are I'm the chief budget officer of the county, so I have to come up with a first draft of the budget. Commissioner's Court has to pass it, but that's my job to come up with that first draft.
Right.
I preside over Commissioner's Court, which means just try to herd cats, just try to keep order and make sure that the procedures go smoothly. A lot of what I do is trying to have a general enough knowledge base where I know a little bit about what everybody does, so that if they need resources, if they run into problems and they need to come to the Commissioner's Court for either a policy change or additional resources, financial, staff, whatever. Try to know enough to be able to help them and lay the groundwork for that. Sometimes I'm a diplomat to try to get different elected officials or different department heads in the same room and work through some issues. So on the administrative side, and then if there's an emergency that happens, wildfire, big wind event that knocks out power to half the city or the county.
Flood at the courthouse.
It's a different type of emergency. Then it's my job to essentially I'm the one who has to declare a disaster if the commissioner's court approval afterwards, but to serve as our emergency frontline person, at least in an elected capacity. We have a great emergency management office that does the boot work on the ground. And from the judicial side, I just do 3 different types of court proceedings. I do mental health hearings, I do juvenile detention hearings, and then I also do some probating of wills. But I'm not an attorney. And that's something that's also a misnomer for a lot of people. They think a judge is obviously going to be an attorney. County judges in Texas don't have to be, and I'm not.
Well, I think the JP concept is not necessarily because
JPs aren't attorney. Don't have to be
right.
attorneys.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but you now doesn't mean you still have to follow the law.
Yep.
But now, do you have access to an attorney? Is there an county attorney?
So we have our district attorney's office has a civil attorney office
so
that
they help.
They can help, and of course all of the judges have been very helpful to me. Our district judges, our county court law judges, they've been very helpful to me in answering questions. And there's a level of training and hours you have to do if you're going to do any judicial work, and I do those every year.
It's not making you a lawyer, but it's a mini attorney course, right?
So you can play one on TV, essentially. Yes.
There's a lot of people have a misconception that like I said, the county judge runs the county and is over all these elected officials, which that is far from the truth. The county tax assessor has their own office, and they control that office. The constable controls that office. Am I correct on that?
That is correct.
Yeah, you guys help the budget, or it has something to do with the purse strings. But as far as the way that runs, the way it operates, as long as they're within the law, they run their office.
That's right, and it's a system. I mean, that's the way the legislature, the state constitution set it up, but it is a system where power is diffused widely. We have 25 elected officials in Wichita County, and each of them is ultimately responsible to the voters. They're not responsible to me. They're not responsible to the commissioner's court. As you were saying, Trey, we have some power of the purse strings, and we set policy for the courthouse and the buildings and the employees, but each elected official is responsible for their own office and their own duties, and they ultimately don't answer to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a job that is misunderstood by a lot of people in terms of what you do. But that's a great synopsis of it right there.
But isn't it the same, though? A lot of people don't really understand how the whole process works. They're always confusing the school board and the city and the county and who's responsible for what.
That's one of the biggest ones is what people confuse. And I think it's more they think the city runs the school district.
Like, no.
I think there's a lot of city councilors. The mayor gets all that. Well, why don't you do something with Old High or something like that? It's like zero to do with it.
Well, and y'all know this, but the challenge, it's an opportunity and a challenge, because when it's organized that way, you got good people in those offices. They get to concentrate on what they do and do that really well.
Yeah.
It runs into challenges if you get some folks in there who aren't looking out to do their job to the best of their abilities, whether it's state, whether it's city, whether it's school board, whether it's the county. And so, the way it's organized, it is what it is. It's what we work with. There are opportunities there, but it can be a challenge. And when I was working for Representative Frank and before that Congressman Thornberry, the first thing you had to do when someone came in with an issue was get to the bottom of, all right, what level of government are we talking about here? So that's how we can direct you for where you need help.
Well, that's like you ran into some election things that with the county and at the school board level, and you had to work it out. You had to kind of work with them and kind of point out some things about it, that you can do this and they can do this, but you end up winning winning some people by influencing them, hopefully, not undue influence, but
that was particular. What he's talking about was an election, running an election. Were you going to have a joint election or separate elections? And there was some negotiation there on whether we're going to have a joint election or separate election. And it's kind of a long story. It's interesting, but it was kind of a long story. But it does happen. Yeah.
The speaking of elections, we've got obviously a huge one coming up, and we have. We talked a little bit about this before we started recording the interview this morning. About it seemed like for a long time there was not a lot of turnover in local government. You'd see, of course, city council now, they're in Wichita Falls at least, they're term limited. The county's not term
That's
limited
correct.
at
No
all.
term
Right?
limits to the county.
But we would see very little churn in the elected offices. And I think a lot of that comes down to there's a lot of people that might think about running. They might want to, but they hold back from it. They resist.
Yeah.
Or people have no understanding of what's going on. They're so confused by it scares them to death. The idea of serving, whether it be school board or anything else, it just scares them to death.
Yeah.
Why do you think yourself personally, now that with your experience so far in county government, why do you feel like that was? Why is that probably the principal thing? Is what I'm talking about?
Well, my personal opinion, I think some of this is a larger cultural turnover happening right now. I think that we are seeing one generation passing the torch that may have been overdue for some time, but one generation passing the torch to another. And I think you see that every couple of decades. And so I think that we're in the middle of one of those moments, just as a cultural moment larger than just local. And I think that we had a number of folks that had been in office for a long time, and they just all decided that it was time to retire and time to move on and do something different. And so you just saw that all at the same time.
Well, and I'm a big believer in term limits for all elected officials. I don't think anybody needs to serve in an elected position for 40 years of their life. It it doesn't make sense to me that you do that. But at the same time, I understand there are challenges, from, at least occasionally, in getting people to step up and run and serve. It is a challenge. And I know that particularly, take school board, for example. You talked about this before the show this morning about how, it's a totally unpaid position. You get nothing. A lot of people probably don't understand that it's not a paid position. They probably think it is. We know they think it is. They've accused you of getting paid when you were serving on the school board. But you never got paid a nickel as a school board member. Yeah. And you don't today. It's basically you have to spend money to run for an elected office that is essentially a volunteer position. Mm-hmm. Really is.
And you fall under all the Texas election laws. In other words, you can actually go to prison. You fall under all the Open Meetings Acts and have to do all the training and stuff. So it's kind of one of those deals. You can, if you violate those things, you do put yourself in some legal jeopardy.
As an elected body, a school board has to follow the same exact rules that the county commissioners court does.
We're all under the same Open Meetings Act.
The city council or anybody else.
All right. And, interesting. You don't even you can not even get paid some illegal amount and follow some procedural thing to get thrown in jail.
If you've never heard the term walking quorum, you've never taken Texas election law training.
And there's, so the county positions are full-time paid positions.
Right.
And so for us, I know that I'm 20 months in, and there's some issues still that come up that you just shrug your shoulders and go, I've never encountered this before. Now I got to go to the statute, got to go to people and ask questions of what's the background on this, what can we do, what should we do. And so that's a full-time plus position for me, and we're still running into that. For our folks who it's either minimally paid or not paid at all, you are asking them to jump in and learn incredibly detailed and complicated subject matter, to subject themselves to ethics reporting and campaign finance laws. And there's so many, y'all know this, there's so many laws on the books that you can try to jump through every single hoop all the time, be really focused on it. Invariably, you're going to mess up. You're going to make a mistake.
Of course.
And so asking folks to enter that arena, to then be subject to a public who wants to get behind their keyboards and launch arrows at them for no pay or for minimal pay. Again, it's different for the county, but it's a tall order.
Hey, bottom line, you got to have a heart for it.
You do.
You absolutely have to have a heart for public service. You have to be willing to sacrifice a lot of personal time, a lot of yourself. I mean, you put yourself out there. You expose yourself as an individual, as you said, to a lot of criticism, and a lot of times, most of it very undue.
But I think that's the same thing. You have to have the passion or heart to serve in even your position or the county commissioners and things like that, because none of you are going to get rich doing that. And if you look at what you could make with the amount of responsibility you have and what you can make in the private sector by taking that same amount of responsibility, you could make more money.
Yeah.
So I applaud people that do go, hey, I'm willing to take a little less money, but I'm serving the public to do that. Something that you said, of course, we had the State of the Region, which that was yesterday as we're recording this, but it'll be a few days down the road. You spoke yesterday, but you used the term getting to the arena. Will you please expound on that, what you mean, so everybody can understand it? Because very few people were at the thing. It was like 200 people heard that. Yeah. And then it was kind of, I kind of think I know what you mean, but I didn't know. But for everybody else, what were you talking about?
So, system of government we have, representative democracy, largely. We don't ask for everybody's vote on every single issue that comes up. We elect people, and then they make decisions and vote on things. When I was talking about getting into the arena, I meant engage in the political process. Don't get mad at decisions that are made and then not talk to the people who made those decisions. Yeah. What I meant by get into the arena, that can mean run for office, jump in, do the hard thing, put yourself out there. Even people I disagree with fundamentally on policy, if they put their name in the hat and ring, I still thank them and still applaud them for being willing to get in there and do it, because it's hard on your personal life, and it's hard on you professionally a lot of times. So that would be number one. Number two would be get involved, serve on a board.
Yeah.
If you want to understand how the county budget works better, come to our public hearings, come to our public workshops. Call me up and set an appointment, and I will be glad to walk through that document with you and explain my rationale on decisions that I made, where those numbers are coming from. But engage with the people actually making the policy and making the decisions. Don't just get mad, watch a news story, or send something off on Facebook and be done with it. And as I said yesterday, this country has a long, long history of disagreeing with those in leadership or elected officials. Sure. I'm not saying don't disagree, don't argue, don't get out there and talk about that. But get in the middle of the discussion and in the middle of the policy making argument with the people who are actually having to make those decisions. Right. That's really what I was talking about.
Talk to your neighbor next door, and you two bitching and moaning about something together amongst yourselves and not saying a word to anybody else doesn't do any good.
Yeah.
Right. You're bitching and moaning.
Right. And something, I don't know who said this. I've probably heard it on a radio program somewhere. But historically, our country is what you said. It's based on arguments, if you will, that they passionately imagine.
That's how our country was founded.
Right, exactly.
It was a big pissing contest.
Exactly. and so it was about the taxes and all that stuff. But even today, I think it's healthy. And you were mentioning before the program, y'all were talking about being able to separate yourself personally from the issue. That's mentally. That's good for you to be able to compartmentalize certain things. That at the end of the day, if you guys were arguing on a budget point or something, and whoever won got the votes, then all right, shake at the end of the day and you're done. It's like the luxury that you guys have in a way in Texas is every level of government has to balance their budget, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in Congress and in the U.S. Stuff.
The ghost of MacTech Solutions.
Right, they have they have the. I guess
you got one of those Hamas pagers in your pocket over there, Mike?
Yeah, but
too soon.
But anyway,
too real.
They have the burden, if you will, of the fact that there's no balanced budget, and at the end of the day, they're able to work it out. Oh, hey, we'll increase the budget, or not the budget, but the debt ceiling. And now they can spend even more money, and everybody gets what they want. But I would rather it be that even if I lost, if there was a balanced budget, even if I lost, I'm going to fight. I'm going to do everything I can within the law, and be reasonable and gentlemanly and, all that. But then at the end of the day, if you had enough votes, then we need to move on and go to the next thing.
It's called democracy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, our biggest problem in Washington is that so many of these people have lost focus of the fact that we are a representative republic.
Yes.
And they just don't care about that anymore. The power they've been overcome with the power. I think a lot of them have. and that's unfortunate. But that's another reason I think we need term limits, especially for Congress. Nobody needs to be serving there for 35, 40 years of their life. Nobody.
Didn't you used to think? I believed that First Amendment, be able to do whatever, do what you want, serve when you can, and if again, elections. But I can't support that. I'm like, no, we got to have term limits. And for 15, 20 years, I've been on the term limit thing too. Yeah. And if they just do two things, of course, we don't have to worry about it because you guys do. And that's the other thing. You got to commend these levels of government at the local level has more direct effect on my life than the monkeys up in
Absolutely. It's all focused on what's happening at the White House. What happens at the White House does have some effect on your life, but it is somewhat minimal. They can't raise taxes. They can't lower taxes. They can't, all this BS that you hear somebody spew, I'm going to do this. 90% of the stuff they say they're going to do, they don't. And yes, your city, your county, and your school district, those are the most influencing on your life directly, and usually the better you can influence those people.
Well, and I'm glad y'all talked about that and said that, because one of the real advantages, one of the things I love about our county, our community, is that we are big enough to have access to a lot of the amenities that larger cities have. But on the governance side, we are small enough that you still have, and Ron Kitchens talked about this yesterday at the Chamber deal, but we are still small enough that you have direct access to your local elected officials.
Right. Yeah.
Anybody can call and ask to make an appointment with their county commissioner, with me, and we'll schedule one and meet with you. I don't know that happens in bigger places. And so it does mean that one or a handful of people who, again, are willing to enter the arena and not just have a one-off meeting, but really understand, really try to get an initiative done, they've got a much better chance of doing that here than they do in bigger places.
Along those lines, with the size of our community, and even with Ronnie Jackson, and of course you were in that assistant. We were the chief. What were you?
I was a constituent services person for Congressman Thornberry.
For Thornberry. Yeah. Okay, so but with Ronnie Jackson, the fact that we don't have huge populations in our district, right? They're all smaller communities, so he has to actually get around, and we benefit from the fact. And I got to meet him. I mean, you can meet them one-on-one, even at this level. But if you're a representative in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, covers that. It's a smaller area. It's all concentrated. One person's access to any of those several million people is a much more difficult proposition.
Even on a local level, the likelihood that you're going to go to the grocery store and see the county judge or one of your commissioners or a city councilor or a school board member is much greater here than it would be, let's say, in Dallas or Austin. Yep. Just by sheer virtue of the numbers. The likelihood that you're going to encounter your constituents, whether it's a church or at the store or the mall or whatever, wherever you may be, it's a much greater likelihood. So it's a more personal, more intimate relationship at this level with your elected officials. People can have that, but they have to engage you. They have to pick up the phone and call or send an email. Yeah. They have to engage you in some way or walk up to you at the store and go, "Hey, Judge, I bend your ear a minute."
How many people participated percentage-wise of the eligible voters when you got voted in?
I think it ended up being about 9 or 10%.
9 or 10%.
Yes.
Oh, that is, and on one hand, I mean, you obviously got elected.
Yeah.
But looking at it just completely objectively, that's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah. Well, you see that when we get into
not because you personally, but when we get into,
thanks for clarifying that, Jerry. Yeah.
When we get into congressional primaries, you see this across the entire country. Typical turnout will be somewhere between about 9 and 12% in any given district, somewhere between 9 and 12%.
Wow.
The average is about 10.5% across the board, which is part of the reason why, if you've got someone running for re-election and you think that it's time for that person to move on, and maybe they've got an opponent, but when you've only got about a 9 or 10% turnout in a primary, and 70% of those people are going to vote for the incumbent candidate, a challenger pretty much has no chance of going anywhere. Yeah. So that's part of the process there too, is people got to get involved not just in engaging the elected official, but also in voting, turning out and voting. Yeah. It's very simple as that. What are your biggest challenges right now? I mean, we talked about budgets, and obviously that's always challenging. But outside of money, what's the biggest challenges that the county government is facing right now?
I think our biggest challenge is, and it's not money directly, it is money, but it's the same that business owners and home and households are facing. Right. Inflation the last couple of years has meant it's harder for us to recruit and retain people because we're not able to raise our salaries that we pay in conjunction with inflation because the goods that we're selling are not also going up with inflation. Right. And we also, over 80% of our revenue comes from property taxes, no sales tax revenue. And so there, you don't see any bump in inflation causing that to go up.
Right.
And so staffing and being able to be competitive in hiring and retaining people in this environment is tough. For our road and bridge, that's especially hard because that heavy equipment that you need to do those jobs, we've seen double-digit inflations for the last 3 years.
Inflation hits everybody because it's not like the county has some magical wand. You pay wholesale. I mean, you got to pay whatever the going rate is. If a coarse ground gravel rock is $100 a load or $100 a ton or whatever, it's $100 a ton for you. And if it was $50 a ton last month, it's $50 a ton for you guys.
Well, and this is one of the places where the growth happening in Texas actually hurts us locally because like construction contractors and those who do roads, they've got more work than they know what to do with.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. Is you do have certain capabilities in house.
We do,
but then there's things that either one you don't have the bandwidth. There's just too big of a project. Theoretically, you could do it, but it's too big, and you'll budget for that, and then you hire somebody out, which then you're subject to what you just pointed out.
And even on the internal stuff, we're still in the same marketplace for the equipment and the materials. Yeah. And so that's been a challenge. And then it hits taxpayers on the double level because that inflation's hurting their own household budget. Right. And then we have basic services we have to provide. And so if the cost to provide those services go up, then we're asking taxpayers who are already hit hard to pay more. Now, thankfully, for this budget we just passed for 2025, we were able to keep taxes essentially the same for folks. We lowered the rate to account for that higher value that most people are seeing. And we did that because even before I came on, through good work by the Commissioner's Court, we had over $1 million of debt roll off from 2024 to 2025.
You cut taxes, though, right?
We cut the rate.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that it's just how politicians oftentimes say, I cut your tax rate, which is true.
Yeah.
But the actual budget was the same.
And that's why I wanted to make sure I said both parts of that.
Right.
We cut your rate, but the values went up so that on average it ends up being, I think it ends up costing the average homeowner about $3 more per 100,000 in taxes. Which again, I know is not nothing, but in this environment,
yes, it is.
Worked really hard to try to keep.
Well, and I applaud you guys because I understand that is difficult because you have to make some tough decisions when you're doing that and keeping your budget low. And I do applaud any elected official who goes, look, this is what we need to operate because we have these basic services. This is what we're required by law, by statute to operate. And we're going to cut out as much fluff as we can because we don't have the fluff room right now in this environment, in this location. We don't have the fluff room, so we're going to cut it out, and we're going to rock as long as thin as we can.
Yeah. The other challenge that's not money related directly is it's something that any big organization is always going to be going through, and that's facilities and keeping them up and making sure that you've got a plan so that you're staying on top of things so you don't get 20, 25 years behind.
Like the jail was an example
yes,
of that, right?
And then went to the voters. They approved the bond for the new law enforcement center. And so we're good there for a while, but any building starts to get old, and then you gotta work to maintain it. And so just making sure that we are on top of things so that we've got a plan so that every year we're doing some project to get something taken care of. And just to keep that rotating, it's a challenge too.
The term we use in the real estate industry a lot is deferred maintenance.
Yep.
You see it in a lot of homes and such. And there's a lot of that at government level, where you have to defer maintenance on some of those facilities and some of that equipment. Maybe that hydraulic line on that bucket is about this close to popping, but it's $1,000 to buy that hose. And so you have to tighten the belt continually, and there is a lot of deferred maintenance that goes into that.
And this is not 40 years ago where people expect to go to one building and it's all paper, it's all physical copies of something,
Right,
and it's going to take 4 or 5 days to do, and that's just everybody is their expectations are set at that point.
Yeah.
We are in the Amazonification of our entire culture, so it means that we have high technology requirements that the state either requires of us or that our residents expect, and so those things don't last 10, 15, 20 years.
No.
They last 3 or 4, and then people expect to have same day quick service. And so those tools have allowed us to do a better job of that. But it does mean that we are constantly going through that cycle in a way that I don't think that previous generations in government dealt with.
Is there anything in particular about county government that if you personally could just wave a magic wand and change or have happen or do whatever, is there any particular thing that you would do or see done differently?
Well, I mean, it's a bit Pollyannish, but if you could wave a magic wand and have everybody, not just Wichita County, but across county government as a whole, making sure that people's attitudes are in the right place and that we are all pulling in the same direction all the time, I would wave that magic wand. But of course, as I said yesterday, then you run into problems of, okay, who gets to decide what that one direction is that we're going? And
you're asking a lot of human nature there.
Yes, which is why, that's not a deal. I mean, honestly, if I could wave the magic wand, I would get inflation back to pre-COVID levels where we're able to plan budgets, where we're able to, everybody, government level on down, is able to know that where you're going to be 12 months from now, 18 months from now is going to be a little inflation. You'll see a little growth, but not what we've been having to deal with the last couple of years.
All good news is we'll all have a chance to wave that magic wand in November. And I think if we wave it the right way, I think that inflation, I honestly believe that if that election goes the way that I want it to go, and I assume that most people at this table want to go, I think things will change in a hurry. I don't even think it'll wait till January, because I think once people see, okay, now it's on, I think the investment, the cash flowing in, I think there'll be a lot of changes.
But people need to remember, though, that the cause of inflation, it's the people up there in Washington with the printing press that caused this. They are the ones responsible.
It's the Richmond north of Richmond.
Yes, indeed. All right.
I think we got to get going here.
Jim Johnson is our Wichita County judge. Jim, if people have questions for you, want to contact you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So there's a couple of ways I'd suggest. First of all, you direct line to my office is 940-767-8101. It can also reach me by email at jim.johnson@co.wichita.tx.us. That's a mouthful. We're trying to get that shortened.
What if we wanted to call you at 2:00 in the? No, I'm kidding.
that number I gave first, I'll get you that the following morning.
There you go.
And then of course you can go to the county's website, which is wichitacountytx.com, and you can get access to every single elected officials' contact information that way. And maybe I'll run into United on Jacksboro.
You never know.
It's very possible. Very possible indeed. Jim Johnson, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank y'all.
And we will be back with more Get It Right Texoma. Hang in there. All right, welcome back. Again, want to thank Jim Johnson for joining us. Wichita County Judge Jim Johnson, thank you for being here. We're going to try to have him on regularly if we can. Yeah. We've got a whole slate of guests coming up here in the next, between now really and the end of the year.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of guests that are going to be joining us here on the podcast, and we hope you'll tune in for that, because they're going to have a lot of great information to share about, what is they do. A lot of these folks are, they're not all politicians.
No.
There's two former politicians in there.
Yeah.
But they're just people from the community.
Yeah. But community, people that are deeply involved in the community, by the way. Yep. So they're going to have a lot of interesting things to share with you. So thank you for joining us for this episode of Get It Right Texoma. Again, it's brought to you by Eddie Hills Fun Cycles, 401 North Scott, EddieHillsFunCycles.com. MacTech Solutions at 4020 Ray Road here in Wichita Falls, Suite 3B, MacTech-Solutions.com. And Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop online at LPSweet.com. And on Facebook, Lolly and Pop's Sweet Shop, Lollie is how you spell Lolly. Be sure to check out our website, GetItRightTexoma.com, and our Facebook page. Like, share, Share it across all your social media platforms.
Yeah. And one thing, toys, right? We really
we have the
Yeah,
Eddie Hills toy drive.
why don't we talk about that?
Oh,
Nick? I mean,
okay,
let's
okay.
just
I'm sorry.
we do need to kick that back off here, but talk about this again.
If you want to learn more about the 5th annual Eddie Hills Toy Drive, you can go to our Facebook pages and find it there as well, and we will discuss that on the next show coming up here. Until next time, guys, y'all take care. We will see you down the road.